how people tend to hate cookie cutter? Like whenever you point out cookie cutter projects, people are like, I hate that. Well, today we're going to go over a project that completely steps away from this cookie cutter mentality and just does everything pretty much differently. We're looking at a project that is townhomes or row houses, as it's referred to in the project. And this is a residential project that's located in Victoria, Canada, designed by the architects, DRC Jones Architects. Now, the reason that this project looked like this is because they wanted to take this irregular piece of land where the project sits and they wanted to design something that fits within it. So that's why they created this staggering. They also argue that the staggering allows them to control privacy versus a feeling of community. So they argue that by doing this approach, they're able to offer the best of both worlds. And that's another reason why the windows are placed the way that they are, always focusing on community and always focusing on privacy. There's a couple of things that this project does nicely, and there's a couple of things that I think could have done better. So let's go over that. This here is the example of the plan, what I was telling you about that irregular plot of land. You couldn't have something that fit completely perpendicular to this angle here. They probably could have done something here, but then, this one would take a hit, this unit here. So their argument is that this design approach is what makes everything fit nicer. And that's why they create this staggering approach. Now, as you can see, there's a total of 2, 4, 6 units. 4 of them are, from what I can see, exactly the same. And then the ones at the ends are the ones that change a little bit. Now, these units don't have any backyard. Their backyard is found on a roof terrace. They offer roof terrace to these units so that can serve as the area for, their backyard, for their backyard activities. Now, this is a beautiful model, but I suspect that this was computer generated. I mean, this looks too clean. And if it wasn't, if this is an actual model, like this is beautiful craftsmanship. I love it. Now, the architects seem to be very fascinated with their work on the staircase. This is something that I don't like. I think that the material that they chose just looks unfinished, does nothing really for the project. And because this is such a tight space, it just doesn't look good. It doesn't read nice. It's too tight. Like if this would have been a really big space and this stairs at the center point, this unfinished stair where you can appreciate all sides of it, it would be a good design choice. But here, I think they should have chosen something that's more open, that's more transparent, translucent, because it would actually make the space feel bigger. But to be honest with you, this feels like such a tight space already. I think that is not the right option. They should have gone with some rails or some glass or something that opens up the space a little bit more. I forgot to mention that the reason for their choice of this chunky concrete that they're using on the exterior facade, that's to reference the turn of the century Victorian homes, or Victoria homes, I'm sorry, and that is where they're located in Canada. So it's just a historical reference. Now, personally, what I read about it having, this focus on like privacy versus open feeling, I honestly don't understand that. I don't see anything that here resembles privacy except for these little windows at the top. And just in case I misunderstood, let me read word for word what they said. There's a couple things here, so I'm just going to read everything that I see regarding it. So it says that the first thing that I found, it says this neighborly gesture preserves. So let me go back a little bit. It says the building's form modifies a common housing type to provide each resident with a generous outlook of the street. This neighborly gesture preserves the privacy of the surrounding homes and enhances the privacy afforded to each Pearl Block unit. That's the name of the project, Pearl Block. It also says chunky, deeply textured stucco walls refers to Victoria's finest turn of the century houses, functioning like horse blinders to edit views in and out. The lighting inside each row house projecting a sense of both the individual and community to anyone passing by. This approach demonstrates newness and tradition working together with quiet confidence. That to me just sounds like mumbo jumbo. I don't agree with that whatsoever. But again, so a lot of times when architects are doing these designs, they say something and they spend so much time working on these projects that they do believe it. So it's not always mumbo jumbo. It's just that honestly, it doesn't read that way. Like when you look at this project, it doesn't look like that was the main focal point, right? So that's why it sounds like mumbo jumbo, but benefit of the doubt, it could 100% totally mean what they're saying. It also says that strategic placement of windows and balconies enhances the project's respect for privacy. Small balconies to the south are low and screened with railings to limit views between these row houses and adjacent homes. The windows of each row house's bedrooms and hallways are modest and directed away from neighbors. That's fair. Large sliding doors and windows provide ample light to the living areas but are deeply inset to prevent overlook. The L-shaped plans enhance a sense of safety and security, though, through strong prospect and refuge orientation. Little nooks and crannies generated by the plan give this modern building the sort of quirks that make traditional architecture appealing. Again, a little bit of truth in there, maybe not so much. So again, here are these plans, and they argue that the nooks and crannies is what makes this appealing. Now, there doesn't seem to be any program on the ground level. It just seems to be a garage space, a carport maybe, and then your stairs leading up to the second floor. On the second floor, that's where you have your dining table and your TV area, your living room, and your kitchen. Here's the thing that kind of bugs me about this project. They chose to put the living room over here on this top area, and then they put the kitchen down at the bottom. And I just disagree with that so much, especially for these four. I'm not really focusing on these end units just because they're bigger or they have a different layout. So I think these work a little bit better. So I'm not too focused on those. I'm more focused on these interior ones. The way that this is laid out, and I've said this before in other projects, there's no TV wall. Like it seems that there's a furniture here, but it's not centered on the couch. And this is just really annoying. Like if this was an Airbnb unit, then that's fine. You don't need to watch TV. You're not going to be home most of the time. But if you're living here, then chances are you're going to want to watch TV a lot of times, especially in the living room. Now, there are cultural differences. Different cultures function differently. So it's possible that this layout works for the culture of where this project is located. But to be honest with you, I just don't agree with this. I think it would have made more sense to have the living room place where the kitchen is and have the kitchen over here. They probably didn't do that because of size. They probably didn't have the amount of space to have, walkways and be able to have an island and have a premium feel kitchen like they do here. But this just doesn't work. It feels very uncomfortable. Fortunately, in their pictures, they don't show what I'm talking about. You only see the kitchen, which is fine. It's a pretty nice kitchen. I like the casework that they've added here, and I think that the kitchen flows nicely, but behind you would have your couch. So technically this picture was taken sitting on the couch, right? And you don't see any TV. Like, this is your home. This is what you're doing. So if you're by yourself, it's no big deal. But when you have guests over, like, there's nothing that you guys can do together except for, I guess converse, but that's fine. But if you have people that are over regularly, like family, and you're over the talking and you want to like watch some movies together or something like that, you don't have that option here, or at least not comfortably. The design is definitely unique. It's really interesting. I like this push and pull of volumes that they have achieved here. It makes the project look very dynamic, and in my opinion, I appreciate it more than your standard cookie cutter home. I think that I don't like the dark colors that they chose, but again, I'm not totally against it. I think if there's a historical reference and it blends in with the rest of the community, then I think it's perfectly fine. I just would have honestly gone with some lighter colors because it looks a little too dark, especially since there's really no vegetation around. It's just asphalt and concrete everywhere, and it would have been nice to have some more lively colors. The photographers knew this shot was going to be a great one. The way that this corner unit, is basically framed here on the shot is beautiful. It honestly looks super sick. They don't have any images of the rooms, and pretty much their only images are coming from the exterior, that shows the first floor, the ground floor, right? And then they have pictures of that first floor, but not even all of it. They only have images of like the stair and the kitchen. That's it. They don't really focus on any of the other program, like the living room, like I mentioned. They should have shown that, but my guess is that it's really not that great, so they don't show it. And then all these nooks and crannies that they have upstairs, they're just not, you can't photograph them. So as you can see, it's just not appealing. It feels very tight. That's the biggest problem with this. This would have deserved more of an open layout, to be honest with you. But I worked on a project similar to this one time, not the exterior obviously, but I worked on a project that was the same idea. It was like these very tight, very close townhomes, and it was the same problem. It's like that lack of space. it makes it really difficult to work with. And they have this angle cutting across, which just makes everything so much more difficult. But overall, I think the project on the exterior is beautiful. It's such a nice project. I would love to have something like this in my community. Obviously, a different material palette. I don't enjoy it whatsoever. It looks too dark and too gloomy. But I do like this. I like how the project works. I just think that it suffers a lot on the inside by the layout. The layout of the plan is just incorrect. So to me, it seems like this project started from the outside and then they worked it in, and then that's why the inside is now suffering because it was an afterthought in this case. But as always, I'm very excited to see what you guys think about the project, and let me know if you guys think I missed anything and what your overall thoughts is on this project. See you down in the comments.